Welcome to episode 8.
Yeah.
Episode 8 of The Bar is Ankle High. I am Garrett.
I'm Katie.
And we're talking about poor planning today.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. This is the first episode in October, I think, that we're
Yes. Sure
putting
is.
out. Happy ADHD Awareness Month.
Yay!
We made it, and also just found out last week that
Yep. Real recent.
October is ADHD Awareness Month.
And accidentally. Not
So,
even intentionally.
yeah, make sure that you share this series and our podcast with everybody you know, just, for ADHD awareness purposes.
And like and subscribe and follow and download.
Yeah.
And 5-star reviews. And email us your stories.
So, this episode is going to be about poor planning, which I personally, I think, I can go either way on this. For vacations, I'm really good at being like, okay, this is when I'm going to be there, arrival time, departure time, some details in between.
I am a champion of planning a vacation. Champion.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think your reward center is highly tied to your travel center in your brain.
Yeah. Yep. It's like a big travel welcome center in my head. With road maps.
Right. They're not all of them are pointing in different directions.
Gift shops.
None of them make sense.
Yeah. No. It's like an airport, when you go into that middle hub.
It's the airport in Vegas where there's a slot machine somewhere. You're just making
spinning
noise.
Lights. So many mashing buttons.
There's what's the dancers with the things on their head? I don't want to call them can dancers, but in Vegas, the showgirls that wear the big feathery.
I only don't know it because we're if it had come up in a different way, if you weren't what's that name, I would have been able to tell you what it was. So
my first note is folks with ADHD are bad at making plans because we're so well designed to be incentivized by short-term rewards. We are predisposed to seeking out activities that offer some sort of reward in the present moment.
Yeah, that's astute.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
I found also a study that was evaluating ADHD and memory functions.
Mm-hmm.
But also the researchers noted that there was very little research into prospective memory functions as opposed to retrospective memory functions, particularly in those with ADHD. Prospective memory functions are what I wrote, quote, I don't need to write that down, I'll remember it, and other lies I tell myself.
Yep, there we go.
Researchers noted that prospective memory functions are often described as the delayed execution of an intended plan, arguably something that is extremely necessary for adult functionality in society. It's also tied to remembering, to text back your friend who messaged you while you were in a doctor's appointment, or remembering to write down the doctor's appointment, remembering to request time off work for the doctor's appointment, and, schedule maintenance for your car. Meal prepping was a common thing, and checking the mail if, you... for a while in my apartment community, the mailboxes were, in a totally separate place than our houses were. Mm-hmm. So, you actually actively had to check the mail as opposed to just, walking by your mailbox every day when you got out of your car. But, yeah. Yeah. Ooh. I'm usually pretty good at remembering to text people back. Usually. I've gotten better at just not reading the text. So that it stays as an alert.
I wish you could, is there a way to mark them as unread?
I don't know.
Like you can with an email? Like an Outlook? Something
probably.
As unread? Because I definitely have texted probably everybody in my life at some point and been like, oh my God, I am so sorry. I completely forgot to respond to this. Or I read it when I'm in the middle of something. And I really try not to read it. I really try, if I can't respond to it, to not read it. But what really kills me is when it's like late enough in the evening that I'm like incapable of having a conversation with anybody, and I get a text, not responding to it, and then responding to it in the morning. I'm terrible with that.
I often, if I don't respond to a text, it's usually because I started responding and then got interrupted by something else. Either somebody else's, like a different person texted me, or my cat barfed, or something else that took my attention for whatever reason, and then my phone locks, and the next time I pick it up, it's because of a different notification, and I go directly into that.
And then you go to text them again, you're like, whoops.
Yeah.
I either respond immediately or 4 hours later. There's no in between.
Can confirm.
Yeah. I'm either going to get back to you as soon as you text me, or...
way later, all at once, after you've made your decision.
Yep. That's me. Sorry.
Just blowing kisses.
Yeah. You're welcome.
The authors of this study actually argued that up to 80% of all memory problems in daily life were at some point a prospective memory. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yep.
Woof.
And they did find that although there was not a significant difference between ADHD participants and neurotypical participants when it came to actually following the steps of a plan, they did note that adults with ADHD tend to create less elaborate plans. And, but those less elaborate or less detailed plans did not stop the ADHD patients from completing the tasks or their memory of the experiences. So, which is for sure how I do things. Like, I can be very, like, bare bones structural in my, like, flow chart of a plan of what I need to do to get things done. Or I can be, like, hyper aggressive, micromanage myself into oblivion. But either way, it gets done the same.
I will only add extra details to things if there's a very high chance of me forgetting the details. Like, if it's something I know is going to be, like, intuitive, it's fine. If there's something that I'm consciously finding myself, like, oh, don't forget, and this too, and this and this and this, and when you do this and this and this, I will jot down, like, keywords for myself.
Do you find that once you write it down, you need to look at it again? Or if you write it down, like, that's it, you can remember it?
Usually, no. I'm usually pretty good. If I write it down, then I remember it.
Same.
But it's very helpful. What gets me is when I know, okay, before I leave, I have to, while I'm upstairs, grab this item, this item, this item, and this item to bring downstairs with me. That's where plans go awry. And I come upstairs for a different reason, forget all of the things, and then go downstairs and go, God damn it, and then have to go back upstairs. And then I only remember 2 of the things, and then have to go back up again.
Like when I drove over here yesterday and was on the highway and realized I forgot your cookies. Even though I had specifically said to myself, don't forget her cookies.
And then after you left here, you forgot your sunglasses.
Yep.
And the time before that, your water bottle. And then actually,
sorry, Mom.
the time before that, I think you forgot something at your apartment. Yeah, before you came. So yeah, it's inevitable, and I do the same thing. Hansel and Gretel. That's how I live my life. I need a trail of crumbs to get me back to where I started.
Except then you're like, ooh, look, crumbs.
Ooh, is there going to be a croissant at the end of this?
Yeah, so then this study also noted, so like, although there was no difference really in the efficacy of the ADHD participants and the neurotypical participants in this study, as far as following plans and executing on them, they did notice that ADHD participants, there was a massive difference in the 2 groups in the area of self-initiation of the task.
Hello, procrastination. You're back, I see.
The observed impairment is not the consequence of a global deficit, but rather a specific deficit of executive function, i.e., planning, task switching, and self-initiation, unquote. This caused the researchers to conclude that task planning, self-initiation, and plan fidelity all require interrelated executive functions, whereas plan retention relies on retrospective memory functions.
Ah.
Researchers also saw a correlation between this study and previous findings on ADHD that, quote, patients with ADHD have impairments on standardized measures of short-term memory, focused attention, flexibility, and inattention. So it basically confirmed prior studies of everything we talked about so far in the series.
That tracks so far, yep.
There were limits to this study, though, so like grain of salt, that more research was needed on the interplay of ADHD pharmaceuticals in the form of stimulant medications and prospective memory performance. They noted that studies have been done and demonstrated the efficacy of stimulant medication on cognitive functions such as memory, attention, and problem solving, but it was unclear whether stimulants helped planning abilities in complex prospective memory and whether patients achieved a higher function in the execution of delayed intentions. Mm-hmm. So this is really like, it's not so much planning like, okay, today I've got to do laundry and do grocery shopping and do like meal prep my breakfast for the work week. It's more like, okay, I'm going to do a science fair project. Now I've got to pick a topic and then figure out how I'm going to research that topic.
Oh, it's flashbacks.
And then how I'm going to present that information to the group.
If I can just get one of those triple fold cardboard display posters.
I have a whole bunch underneath my bed. I've told you this. They keep my cats from destroying my furniture.
I'm prepared at any moment. There's just a lot of holes in it. That's all.
They don't bother. They don't claw at it.
It's so weird.
It's so wild.
Strange.
So, but, you know, cheap fix if you have cats or terroristic animals of any kind, I suppose. Yeah. But yeah, so it's not so much like those little day-to-day tasks because that doesn't really require that much of looking into the future and how you're going to do things by a certain deadline. Mm-hmm. But rather like those bigger projects for work or for school that do kind of require that you plan things out, or if you're doing a group project, how you work with other people and get everybody on the same page for those different timelines and what needs to be done so that it can all come together. So it's sort of like what you made me do with this podcast.
So, Katie, I want to come up with a plan. Oh.
You're going to ruin it.
I just don't really think we need it. No, we definitely do. Oh. That's how it went.
Yeah. I'm like, all right, we're friends, so I'll respect you.
Fine, that you need a plan. We can have a meeting.
Nerd.
Nerd! Yes, this is a topic where we are at opposite ends of this. I want to plan everything ahead of time, so I'm prepared.
And I am a big proponent of just throw yourself down the hill and figure it out on your way down.
Yes. Different takes on figure outable.
We both end up at the bottom of the hill.
We do. I usually end up there because I've carefully stepped down with padding on.
And I just have sticks in my hair.
Katie has sticks in her hair, and she's covered in grass stains, and she barfs. And it takes me 4 times as long to get there.
Man, I used to love rolling down hills as a kid.
The thought of doing that now, I loved it too, but the thought of doing that now, I want to vomit.
I would probably vomit, yeah.
Yeah. What was I thinking? I used to love those spinny rides. So the scrambler, that was my favorite thing.
I still like those, but there is also a point where I'm like, my eye muscles aren't strong enough to keep up with my body at this point.
Yep.
I can't.
Also, maybe that's what happened to my amygdala.
Maybe. Too much
I just
spin
scrambled
rides.
it.
We just did like
Yes, like a centrifuge.
Yeah.
Yeah. To our brain matter.
Centrifugal force expanded it.
Yeah.
Like a spirograph.
Yeah. I feel like mine just got separated, like the plasma and the everything else separated.
So you're like one of those like
yep.
things that had the oil and water that were super hip in the 90s.
Yes.
I love those.
You know what else I loved were those things that were like a sleeve and they were filled with
jerk-off toys?
Yeah, that's basically what they are. And they would have like, like glitter and shit in them and like fish or something floating in them.
Yeah, I like those too. And
Loved
my mom
them.
wouldn't get me one, and I get it. Looking back, it is a squishy fleshlight.
It is, and I had a few of them and definitely popped them before and was then told
That's
I couldn't
probably
have them.
why my mom didn't get them, because she was like, I've heard stories of people popping these.
It was
Absolutely
me.
not.
I was the one you heard the story about. Sorry to
Your mom went to work and was like, don't let your kids do this.
Whatever you do.
Or somebody brought one to work and my mom was like playing with it and popped it.
Yes.
And was like, I can't do this at my house.
This can't be at my house.
Yeah, I have carpet.
Yeah. This can't happen.
So they had, I don't know where I got this list from actually, but tips to deal with being not good at planning while living with ADHD. One of those was pursue a career in a fast-paced and unpredictable profession.
I did read that. They said like firefighters, emergency room doctors,
Mm-hmm.
like, things where your head is always going a million miles an hour.
I had medicine, legal fields, and journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said bonus points if you genuinely enjoy work. For example, I love the routine of my job. My physical tasks are always the same, but at least once or twice a month I get to deal with a case that has some unique facts and allows me to think about an argument in a different light or research a new angle that I haven't gotten to use before. My mom thrived in nursing because although when she worked in different units, she knew her patients would usually be dealing with all the similar issues, like when she worked in labor and delivery or the cardiac care unit. You also know the gist of what you're dealing with, but you get to be in that heightened state of awareness when you're in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can sort of plan for what you know and then also get that kind of dopamine stimulation by getting that excitement of
problem solving and something interesting. Yeah.
This was from psychcentral.com. These tips. Three choices, according to psychcentral.com, were build a life that requires a minimal amount of order. Basically, by avoiding clutter, effectively, is what that means.
Live in controlled chaos.
Yeah. Minimalistic, as best you can. Use your insight into your symptoms to develop coping methods to reduce that chaos, or some combination of one and two.
Ah.
Yeah, real.
See above.
Thanks a lot, psychcentral.com.
So you have 2 tips.
Mm-hmm.
Not 3.
Well, technically, there's 3, because the third choice is to combine the 2.
I guess. If you want to say it that way.
So, then I went back to our go-to spot, attitudemag.com. And they had an article called How to Plan Ahead When You Have ADHD. Really on the nose. But I thought it was interesting. This article defined good time management as, quote, effectively using the present moment to bring about a better future.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess I kind of, when I do something for myself ahead of time, I go through this, like, corny thing where I say to myself that present Garrett is gifting something to future Garrett.
Is doing a gift.
Is doing a gift. Is spreading the gifts for future Garrett.
Beavis and Butthead Do America. So this article also noted that ADHDers struggle with good time management and how that plays into poor planning a lot because our internal clocks aren't always synced with reality. So we need a lot more external reminders to stay on task because our internal clocks are basically managed by the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, which is
reasonable.
My little fun note. The article did not mention Alice in Wonderland.
Weirdly enough.
But yeah, which I think I can relate to. I think that that's very often. It's not that I underestimate usually how much time something will take. It's that I overestimate how much time I have to do not that thing I need to do.
Yeah, my brain will be like, okay, you have, 20 minutes to get yourself ready, and then you have to leave. And 10 minutes in, I'm like, I just really need to hang up these clothes, and then I'll just feel so much better. I'll have an easier time finding something to wear and getting myself ready. And then it's 15 minutes.
That's how I forgot your cookies yesterday, because I was like, oh, I'll just tweeze my eyebrows. Like, my hairdresser gives a shit that I've got a single unibrow hair. Like,
right. But if I don't do it.
Yeah, so then I forgot your cookies because I was doing other checklist items.
That weren't on the checklist.
Spontaneous checklist. Written by
On the fly.
the stoner caterpillar guy from Alice in Wonderland. He's just like saying shit.
There's just like floating teacups all over the place, and he's like, you know what you need to do?
Who are you?
Blowing smoke in your own face. You don't need a list.
This article also used something called what they called the horizon metaphor. So imagine you're on a beach staring at the horizon and there's a ship way out in the distance that you can't see at first. It's like a little dot, but as the closer it gets to shore, the more you can make out the details of the ship. Mm-hmm. A person with a strong vision will see the ship earlier than somebody with poor vision.
Right.
A person with poor vision or poor prospective memory skills takes longer to see the incoming event, in this metaphor, the ship, before being motivated to take action. So it's almost like we're spending more time figuring out, is that a ship or a whale or just a big cloud? Like, is that a rock coming? Like, what's going on? So it just takes us longer to figure out, like, how we want to approach that incoming thing, even though we totally see something there. And the people around us could be like, that's a fucking ship. We should probably build a dock. Or
we should do something.
And we're just standing there like, okay, but like what kind of dock? And like, I mean, like...
Are you sure? I think it's a cloud.
What if we made the dock out of witches who are also made of wood and weigh the same as a duck?
They'll float. They'll still float. That's what I'm saying.
So they said in this article, in school settings, you can see this as a project that's assigned a month in advance of the due date. Student A, the neurotypical student, begins planning how they'll perform the project that night, even if it's just an outline of what they want to report on. Student B, with ADHD, doesn't, quote, see the need, unquote, to begin the project until the deadline is imminent, and sometimes even after the deadline has passed. I didn't struggle with missing deadlines as a student.
Yeah, I didn't miss deadlines because I was too anxious to. I would just do them at the very last minute, but still get them done in time to turn in. I would turn in late homework, I would say, but I did not turn in late projects.
Yeah, and if I turned in late homework, it's just because I, like, forgot it at home, not because it hadn't been done. So it was more like...
both. Yeah, definitely both.
Only... occasionally. It was mostly like the reading in high school and college where I was like, I'll get to that, and then didn't.
I never did the read. I mean, I'm sorry to a lot of my English teachers that I had. There's a lot of books that I loved that I didn't do all of the reading for. A lot of the reading in high school, I think. And part of it could just be that I didn't know I had ADHD, so I was also really struggling with focusing. Yep. And then I was exhausted by the end of the day.
And some of those books, like even like classic works like Toni Morrison and To Kill a Mockingbird, and they're important literature, I just could not get into, like, because they are so dry and they're so hard to relate to, especially as a teenager.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, to relate to, and when there's 4 different conversations happening in my head at once.
Yep. After a whole day of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my problem, was always that it was just too late in the day, and I had already done, like, another couple hours worth of homework on top of, like, being in school all day and focusing, that by the time it came to, like, read 3 chapters, hell no.
And I got really good at doing a lot of my homework during our daily study halls.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to have study halls. Never had study halls.
Oh, we had them. We called them tutorial period. But it was like, we had block scheduling, so it was an hour and a half.
And then I could have gotten, like, then I would have done homework.
I think every other day it was tutorial. I don't think they do that anymore. I think they're back to a regular 45-minute period schedule, but...
Yeah, I would have loved that. I would have done well with that, but no, I did not have any.
Yeah.
We used to practice spelling words by the class. We get split in half, and we would each line up on either side of the room and
fight to the death.
Pretty much, yeah. You had to, like, spell the word that she gave you when she called on you. If you couldn't spell it, you had to stay standing up, and the other person got to sit down. And you had to do that until everybody sat down, and it was horrific. So, Yeah, that was pretty bad.
So when would you say your anxiety started?
And that's the thing, like, when I think back now, I'm like, oh, you know, like, I would
Therapist is going to listen to this and be like, God damn it,
Jesus
I gotta take
Christ,
more notes.
Garrett, what is this? Yeah, the style of teaching, I mean, I would say most of my teachers were probably in their 60s in the early 90s, so early to mid 90s, so...
Did they wear their nun bonnets?
They weren't nuns, they were just mean.
Lunatics, okay.
Yeah, they just weren't nice and didn't like children.
You gotta be on a watch list if you work at a Catholic school but are not a nun or a member of the clergy in any way.
It was not great. Just like generally not nice to kids. I felt like I get yelled at for playing with my hair.
It's like the Trunchbull school for educators.
I remember looking out the window one day, you know, it was an early snow, and I went, oh, it's snowing. And we were supposed to be quietly working, and I was daydreaming and got in trouble.
Of course.
The teacher was like, the response was basically like, way to go. Like, you distracted everybody. That went, I know. I think back now and I'm like, I was 9.
I was real pissed. I got detention once in sixth or seventh grade. And do you have to do news notes? Did you have to do that?
Like where you watched a news story or something and then
like kind of, I think it was like CNN and they did like CNN Kids or something.
Yes.
So it was part of our social studies grade is that we watched this every day at whenever it was on the school news at like 9 a.m. or whatever. And we had to take notes and like hand in our composition notebooks every month or something to make sure that we were taking notes on the news. And realistically, it was more like assessing our ability to like listen and digest that information quickly and whatever. The kid, I was sitting in class and it was a science class. So we had those huge like marble tables as our desks. And so this kid is like 5 feet away from me, but sitting across from me. And he like asked me like, oh, what did they say? And so I like answered him and there was a rule, no talking during news notes. And so he's like, oh, did they say da-da? And I was like, no, they said this. And I got detention for answering his question about the fucking news notes. And I was so pissed. Not only did I not start it, but I was being helpful. Like I wasn't like, what, fuck you. Like that doesn't make me like that. The fact that like that was punished. But also, yeah, the other kid didn't get in trouble. Like, it's not my fault he's not paying attention. Fuck. Right. Like, yeah. Made me real mad. Yeah. Obviously, I'm holding on to it 23 years later.
Still salty about a lot of things. Still salty about being asked how to spell hippopotamus. Still don't know how to spell it.
So, back to poor planning.
Woof. Yikes. Sorry, guys.
Oh, boy.
Buckle in.
We did go for a walk before we recorded this, just so you know, to like clear our brains. It totally worked.
Totally worked well, yep.
One researcher noted that the ADHD brain experiences something called future myopia, spelled myopia, which is abnormally short time horizons, which makes it very difficult for them to visualize urgency as quickly as their peers. So note, though, that a typical, like, neurotypical young child can only reliably consider 1 to 2 days in the future, whereas a neurotypical adult can look several months or years into the future at a time. Whereas an ADHD person, as an adult anyway, can't do that. And that actually, like, super resonated with me, because in college, they kept like harping on this, like, you gotta have a 5-year plan. You gotta have a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And I was so irked by that.
Every interview, like, be prepared with a 5-year plan.
Right. And I have first of all, whoever started that should be in jail, because that's some bullshit. But also I was like, I'm an undergrad and I know I want to go to law school. Like, that's my fucking 5-year plan. Like, that covers me for the next 7 years.
Yeah.
So, like,
I remember being like, I just want to graduate and get a job. I just want to be able to, like, make a decent amount.
And they were like, be detailed. And I was like, I can't. Like, I think that's very much my ADHD thing, where I was like, what do you mean? Like, I already told you what my plan is. My plan is to go to law school.
And, like,
period.
Growing up during, you know, post 9/11, like, war on terror and the news cycle, that's when the 24-hour news cycle started. Like, I feel like that also impacted, you don't have the optimism about the world, I think. Well, like, you kind of come up a little bit more cynical because you're like, oh, there's a lot of things that suck.
That's for sure how I live now. But at the time, it wasn't just a lack of optimism. It was just sort of like, I gave you the answer. Like,
Yeah.
there's no more detail to that for me. Because
Right.
I think I have this shortened time horizon where I was like, why would I need to plan where I'm going to work after I graduate law school? Like,
Also,
that's
that's limiting. Like,
so irrelevant.
Right.
Yeah. And I very much struggle with having significantly limited options, which, again, is why I struggle, especially now, with super restrictive diets. Because in my head, I'm like, well, I can just have that. Like, and so in a similar way, it's less like, well, if I just don't eat bread for a month, then I'll lose 15 pounds. Like, that is way too far off in the distance for me to think
Right.
of. Like, I don't get the reward center stimulus
No.
from that kind of plan. And similar to, like, those 5-year plans, like, I don't see the point of it. Because so I'm very pragmatic in the sense that, like, so many different things could happen between A and B here. And my idea of, like, it's probably a little bit of, like, a fear of failure, but, like, if I say, okay, well, in 18 months, this podcast needs to have 500,000 total downloads. Well, then in 18 months, if we don't hit that,
You're gonna
then
feel
what?
like poop.
Then I can't move on to the second step. Because the whole
Yes.
point of the 5-year plan is that it's progressive. But
Right.
if I don't accomplish the first step, then how can I move on to the second step? So why don't I just try to accomplish this first step?
Right.
Adjust course as I need to, like that, like we talked about last week, with the ability to change course
problem
and
solve.
think on our feet.
Right.
Like, that's where my strengths are. So I'll have this general outline of, like, where I want to be, but I leave so much room for negotiation in between.
Totally.
And I think that that's, for me, how I work within my ADHD to be successful and not set myself up to be in situations where it's easy to be mean to myself.
Yes. Yeah, like I will do a rough outline of the high points and that's it. Like anything else that comes in between is like gravy. Like, great. And I also feel like if you're like that push for a 5-year plan is setting people up for, you can coast for 5 years. Like
Yeah.
you can give yourself a break for 5 years and not be pushing yourself.
why can't
to
that
point
be
of
the plan?
exhaustion. Right.
I'm going to enjoy my fucking life for 5 years.
Right. God forbid you're like 20 and you're like, I'm just gonna, make enough money to survive and
Like that thing you shared
Right.
The other day on Instagram. That was fantastic. Like,
yeah, the grind culture
your 20s
is not...
are for your grind. Fuck you. No, they're not. My
wanna
20s
be
are for
cute
looking
and
cute. If only I had seen that when I was in my 20s.
Seriously. I will say.
So now my late 30s are for looking cute.
Guess what? New plan. New 5-year plan. Look cute. That's it.
Yay!
I can plan around that for sure.
Cutie patooties.
And that's the other thing too, where I try and modulate my anxiety with like planning, because I will, as a way of coping with anxiety, over plan something, is like scaling it back. Like, okay, you don't need to have all these things figured out. That also gets filed under figure outable, like we talked about in coping with stress.
Yeah.
Goes in that column, and it's just not something I need to like immediately plan for right now.
And I think that's why my journaling is very helpful for me. Even though it's often very mundane. Oh, I went to dinner and, had dinner with Garrett and her husband and PK this week, and we had a really good time, and that was really fun, and, went golfing with mom, and blah, blah, blah. And it's very mundane. There are times where it's like 4 or 5 pages of like, this, then I'm going to do this, and this, and this, and I kind of like word vomit it.
Yes.
Get it out of my system, and then I can go back to being a normal functioning human.
Yes, I do that with like the Notes app on my phone. I will type something into the notes, type a list up quick, or jot something down, which actually I think we were talking about in, I don't remember which episode it was. I was going through my kind of wild process of like preparing to sit down and focus. And it's like meeting all of these physical needs, making sure I'm not cold, I'm not hot, I have something to drink, like I'm not hungry, this and this and this and this and this, but all of those to keep things from knocking around in my head so that I have less like static going on. And I think that's the same thing, like writing something down so it's not in my head.
Yeah.
Little things I can take care of so that I know I'm not going to be thinking about having to take care of them later.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Makes it
totally.
where I can focus better.
And that, I agree. And I think I excelled in school at least through undergrad, because like even in undergrad, I mean, I had a laptop, but I didn't bring it to class with me.
Me neither.
So I was handwriting all my notes, and then I didn't really have to study for finals because I remembered it. Like I could flip through my notebook, see what I had written really quickly, and it would immediately trigger that memory, and then it would be refreshed, and that was it. I didn't need to worry. That fucked me hard in law school.
I loved that in undergrad. I really had like a system.
Yeah, you can't do that in law school.
Because like I would sit in the front row and I would pay attention so well for that hour and change we were in class, take all of the notes, and I would never study.
Yeah, same.
I mean, there were some I studied for, and like some obviously required more work, but like generally that got me through.
Oh, absolutely.
Almost everything.
And anytime that didn't work, like in my math classes, that was not sufficient. I just didn't do as well. I mean, I still got like a B in math, but I was convinced I failed.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand how curved grading worked, basically. It's the only reason I passed college math.
I had to take a math class in college. It was like college algebra or something, which in reality is like probably not a hard class, but he told us that we had one homework assignment a week that was optional.
Oh, don't say that.
And you could come in once a week to go over it if you had questions. And then there was a final. So what do you think I did? Nothing. But again, that working memory, if you teach me something and I'm not going to be using it in the near future, I will forget it.
Yeah.
I won't retain it.
For sure. And, yeah, so the example of this, like, horizon thing in this article was, okay, so, like, imagine you're offered $100 to shovel a driveway right now.
Okay.
You're going to, like, jump at the chance, but what if you're offered $100 to shovel a driveway right now, but you're not going to get the money until 3 months from now?
Shoveling that driveway.
And it's basically like a neurodivergent, like ADHD person is like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, are you giving it to me with interest?
Yeah, did you know that in 3 months that snow will be gone?
Yeah.
Because of the melting?
Yeah. Guess what? You can find somebody else to shovel it in the meantime for $30 instead of $100.
Hey, that's your reward center malfunctioning, just FYI.
I hate it. I don't want that information. It's a stupid example.
I said, I personally feel the effects of this symptom when I look back on my life with the value of hindsight, especially when I think about how different my college and law school experiences would have been if I had had the benefit of a diagnosis with matching medication for those times, because for me, it was enough. I was able to do enough to get through. I never had to work too hard in grade school and undergrad. As long as I wasn't flunking out of law school, I was also happy. But looking back, I wish I had tried harder, because the reality is that my grades being higher in law school and my ability to focus long enough to get my head wrapped around various legal theories and whatever, the first time around would have completely changed my post-grad life.
Yeah.
And I think that delayed gratification is part of why I struggled so much. Because especially for law school, it's like kind of who gives a shit about your grades as long as you pass the bar. That's like the trade-off is like, I just need to pass the bar, whatever. This is just some hurdle stuff I have to get through in order to be able to take the bar exam.
Yeah, or as you phrased it in an earlier episode, minimum competency, ho.
Yeah. That's me.
Sure did.
So, yeah, the delayed gratification and that reward center misfiring issue, is part of why I struggled so much. And the idea that I have to do well now so that in 4 to 5 years I'll have an easier time was just, like, so irrelevant to me. Like,
yeah.
Like, it's such... Like, you might as well just be talking gibberish. Like, it didn't make sense. And even though I knew I was going to be buried by... I said furthermore, I knew I was going to be buried by my student loans either way. So I was able to even talk myself out of the urgency or pressure for that. Because I was like, well, the loans are the loans, regardless of my grades.
Too late, yeah. Doesn't matter.
Not like my loan amount goes down
right.
if my grades are higher, unless I get, like, a Dean's List scholarship.
Right.
But, like, generally speaking, unless you're going into law school with already being offered a scholarship, you're not going to get one halfway through.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah. But they also had tips.
Ooh, good. Tips.
To help with this. One we've mentioned before is externalized time.
Yep.
They actually, in this one, recommended using an analog clock because the moving hands are easier for a person to visualize the passing of time.
I read that someplace else, and I don't remember where I saw it, but somebody was saying to use analog, like on your, if you have like a fitness tracker or something that you're wearing to, or, you know, on your computer screen to do that so that you have a better visualization of time passing instead of, you know, a digital clock where it's...
Right. I mean, if you only have a digital clock available to you, you can always set a timer.
Mm-hmm. Which is what I do.
I set timers a lot, yeah. So just FYI, but yeah, that was an interesting thing to me. And then when I thought about it, I was like, that kind of actually makes sense. Like, especially at work, because I sit right across from the clock. I look at it all the time.
Yep, and the one by me is always wrong, so can't depend on it. I don't realize that I try to use it, and then I'm like, wait a second, it's Sean Connery, of course. The clock's wrong, of course. I had my hands on my hips, you just couldn't see it. But I did. Anytime I use that tone, my hands are on my hips.
Same, but it was involuntary for me.
Same, but I was being serious. Because it was serious.
Joke, guys. Serious.
I'm really good at my Sean Connery impression.
For example.
I can't. It makes me laugh so hard every time.
Okay, so the second tip is to maximize motivation by visualizing the consequences of not getting your shit done in a timely manner.
Oh, I was literally like, give yourself a snack. That's No, that makes sense too. Visualization.
So, for example, like, I work best under pressure and other lies we tell ourselves. This article recommends including these lies in your visualization deadline. When you visualize your deadline so that you can practice and acknowledge that those things are untrue. And this article says doing that is critical to learning effective time management. So you almost have to, like, desensitize yourself to the fact that, like, I work best under pressure is not true. I don't work best under pressure. And not only do I not work best under pressure, working under pressure is not best for me.
That's good. Yeah, I like that. I guess I do try and do that a little bit. Like, if you put this off, it's going to make you feel stressed and uncomfortable, and you don't want to be stressed and uncomfortable.
I've had a huge difference since getting diagnosed. I think there is a certain amount of awareness to that, where it's, like, putting my laundry into the hamper of, like, if I just do this now, like today I got a Chewy delivery the other day, and so it's this enormous box.
Yep.
And I was just stepping over it for 2 days.
Yep.
I was doing a lot yesterday, to be fair.
Yes.
But it was also like, okay, Katie, you are walking to your car, just take the long way and walk past the recycling dumpster and put this in there.
Just do it.
And, yeah, so it's those, I mean, that's an example of executive dysfunction, guys. Like, it sounds so mundane, but that is what it is. And so, acknowledging that, like, if I just do it now, then it'll be done. Not even, like, there's not even necessarily at this point a reward for me. It's just like, if I just do this now, I don't have to keep tripping over my shoes or...
I will literally say to myself, after having put something off for, say, 2 weeks, I'll be like, well, now that you've put this off and thought about it 6 times and stressed about it 6 times, instead of stressing about it once,
yes,
you've done it all of these times now. So just do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't always work. Sometimes it works, though.
Yeah.
Eventually I do it.
I wonder if part of it is that we're so used to trying to mask and cover up our impulsivity that when we have we sit down on the couch and we're like, oh, you know what I should do is swap the laundry from the washer to the dryer, but you don't get up and do it right away. And I wonder if that's because in that moment our brain is like, no, that's impulsive. Like, that'd be crazy to sit down and get right back up again.
It would be crazy to spend time on YouTube watching videos on how concrete mixer trucks work. Like that.
Who does that?
Not me. I've never done that. Certainly not me.
I mean, not me watching a bunch of area rugs get cleaned for 45 minutes at a time.
On a playlist? Not I.
Stand by it. I'm on to furniture refinishing YouTube now.
That's a good one too. Yeah, that's also... have you watched paint restoration, like paintings?
Yeah, I've seen... I saw like a...
They clean them up?
Like a real on
And repair them.
Instagram, I think. Yeah.
Man,
Yeah, when
so
they were like
soothing.
cleaning the oil painting, I was like, oh my god.
It's the best.
Yeah.
I love watching.
Then I immediately thought of that woman in Spain a few years ago who cleaned up the Jesus painting and like wiped his face off. You don't remember this?
No.
It's like this old as fuck church in Spain, and it was this it was like an oil painting, but it was done on like onto a piece of wood.
Okay.
So it was kind of cracked and like dull, and pieces were missing because it's wood with veneer on it.
Old as hell.
Yeah, it's over 1,000 years old, I think, at this point. And a fucking tourist, basically, this random woman, took it upon herself to fix this painting, and it was like that scene from the Mr. Bean movie where he like
Were the turkeys on his head?
googly eyes on this fucking thing. And this woman like destroyed this painting, and like art restoration people, doctors, I don't know, like bugged out. I have to find it now.
Please tell me she was American. She's got to be American.
Oh, thank God.
I totally figured for sure that would be an American tourist thing to do. I do have a brief travel story while you're Googling that.
These pictures. Yeah, she's a Spanish woman.
Wow.
Cecilia Jimenez, the Spanish woman who really messed up when she tried to restore a 19th century fresco of Jesus.
Oh my God.
Now wants a piece of the action after some 2,000 or so euros the church collected from tourists coming to see the ruined artwork. It's like she wanted a commission because they got tourists.
That is tone deaf, ma'am.
That's big American energy, though.
Yeah, what a move that is.
Let's see. This is a BBC article. An elderly parishioner has stunned Spanish cultural officials with an alarming and unauthorized attempt to restore a prized Jesus Christ fresco.
Yikes.
The woman took her brush to it after years of deterioration due to moisture. Cultural officials said that she had the best intentions and hoped it could be properly restored. Cecilia Jimenez, who is in her 80s, was reportedly upset at the way the fresco had deteriorated and took it upon herself to, quote, restore, unquote, the image. She claimed to have had the permission of the priest to carry out the job. She's quoted as saying,
Job.
"The priest knew it. He did. How could you do something like that without permission? He knew it."
That sounds really convincing. She sounds like she's telling the truth.
Yeah. Now I believe you, Cecilia.
After insisting. I'm not crazy, he's crazy.
BBC Europe correspondent Christian Fraser says that the delicate brushstrokes of Elias Garcia Martinez, the original artist, have been buried under a haphazard splattering of paint.
Oh my God.
The once dignified portrait now resembles a crayon sketch of a very hairy monkey in an ill-fitting tunic, he says.
Rough. That is rough.
Let me show you the pictures.
Oh my God.
We'll include this in our Instagram for this week, guys.
I used to play this game when I was a kid that we would play at like sleepovers. So you would try and draw somebody without looking at the paper. Did you ever play that?
Okay, yeah.
That's what that looks like. Like somebody was playing that game and they were like, okay, ready, draw me. And they're like this.
Yeah. In the Mr. Bean movie, he like sneezed on that. It's the painting of the old woman in a chair where she's like profile view, like a Puritan. And he fixed it by doing this. He like sneezed on it and then tried to wipe his boogers off.
Yes.
That's exactly what this woman did.
Exactly what it is. Yes. Excellent. That's good. Mr. Bean. But then she said she wanted in on the money that was raised from people.
Yeah, so the church then got donations to help actually restore this fucking thing.
And she was like,
and
give me
she
some
wanted
of that.
it cut because that was her vandalism, frankly, is the reason that they got all these things.
It's a wild move.
Yeah, it was like... Oh.
We did it again. We fell down the hole and couldn't find our way back.
The third tip on how to help yourself with planning is to manage your distractions. Set your phone to do not disturb, use noise-canceling headphones, and play a steady sound from the Calm app is what works best for me.
There's also earplugs that you can get that filter noise instead of
is that the Loop
noise.
Ones? I keep getting ads for them.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. But they reduce the amount of noise as opposed to blocking noise. Because I'm always afraid then that I'm going to miss something or, I don't know, be in danger somehow.
I mean, people do just talk to us at work as if we're not listening to other stuff all the time. Yes, and also, make sure that, whatever position you're sitting in, if you're at work or something, is comfortable enough that you don't have to, go numb or squirm the whole time. And the fourth tip is don't catastrophize. So the tip is to immediately break down whatever the task is into smaller tasks so that you can't get to the point of being overwhelmed before you even start. So this article actually recommended doing a scary or daunting task just 5 minutes at a time. If it's like organizing or cleaning off your dining table, set a timer for 5 or 10 minutes. Once that timer goes off, you just stop and go back to watching TV.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, or do something else that brings you comfort. And then, like, the next time you think of, like, you walk past the dining room and you're like, ugh, I've still got to do that. Just set a timer for 5 minutes and do it for 5 minutes.
That's a good idea.
I feel like that's often, somebody also mentioned to me that they saw a tip on TikTok where it was, if you leave your shoes on when you're at home, then it's like a signal to your brain that, like, I've got to do stuff as opposed to, like, walking around barefoot or in slippers or something. Yeah. So you're more likely to just keep going.
Yeah.
And mine is definitely, I can't sit down.
Yeah, like, I can't sit and relax on the couch until I've done the things that I need to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, same.
I know, like, we have been trying to clean out our garage and just recently came to the resolution that it works better and we do a better job if we take it in bite-sized pieces and we spend a couple hours every now and then getting rid of stuff and organizing stuff and categorizing things and then leaving it and going back to it at another time, which used to be my nightmare because I would be like, now I have this loose end flapping around, but I also now realize I am one human being, can only do so much in a day.
And that's very much like that all or nothing mindset of like, if I can't do it perfectly, then I'm a failure and can't do it at all.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I can't reorganize and clean out and categorize and sort my entire garage in 3 hours, I am a bad person.
Yeah, Marie Kondo does a whole house.
Yeah, and why can't I do 1
hour?
Garage? Yeah. When in reality, I get 2 hours in, I get completely overwhelmed, and then stop making good long-term decisions with them.
And I think that helps, that circles back really to our disorganization episode where they said to have like that ripening drawer where you're like not sure what to do with it, leave it there for 3 months and then come back. If you haven't used it in 3 months, out it goes.
Yep.
Barring like an emergency flashlight or something, you know.
Right.
That you're not supposed to use every 3 months.
Just playing like, what are the shadow puppets on the wall? Look, it's a dog. It's like, that's not what we meant.
But yeah, like something like that where it's just, you put everything in that one box of like, okay, I'm not sure what to do with this yet. I'm going to revisit this one box later. Everything else I can get rid of.
Yep.
And like limiting your universe of having to make decisions so that you're not making decisions about everything. You're only making decisions about this one box of crap.
Yes. Bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
Is definitely the way to do it.
But yeah, don't catastrophize, and even if that 5 minutes or 2 hours isn't enough to finish the task, it can show you that the task isn't as daunting as you initially thought, or will help you troubleshoot possible issues for the next 5 minutes that you go at it.
Right.
So if the next time you're like, fuck, I really should have brought like a Sharpie with me so I could label this shit. Mm-hmm. Okay, next time, I'll put a Sharpie next to the door.
Yep.
And I'll have that ready to go.
Set the Sharpie down next to the area.
which doesn't actually help for me because my sunglasses were next to the door and I just
Oh, they were, yeah.
scooted right past it.
Just left them.
Goodbye.
Bye, sunglasses. See you tomorrow.
And the final tip was identify what feelings are keeping you from starting. If you're concerned.
That's uncomfortable. No, thank you.
Unsubscribe.
Don't like that. Nope, pass.
If you're concerned that you won't do the project well enough, causing you to procrastinate because you aren't confident you'll do it right, or the project is so goddamn boring that you can't bring yourself to give a single shit about it, those are feelings that you should probably
Whoops.
at least be able to identify and articulate. But identify where your brain is coming from so that you can help work through that with either the help of your therapist or your body double that's helping you prioritize your stress that we talked about last episode. And ways to unlearn why you have those feelings. Like, why do you instantly assume that you're going to fail at this? Or why do you instantly assume that you will do it so poorly that you'll be criticized and belittled for what you tried to do well?
Right.
And because realistically, like I don't do laundry with the intention of being bad at it. I don't,
My name is Katie and I'm bad at laundry.
I'm so bad. Like I've gotten much better at putting away my laundry as soon as it's folded, but that is within the last 6 months. I've gotten better at that.
I force myself to not have more than one laundry basket. I'm only allowed to have one laundry basket of things that I have to put away.
Oh, okay.
And if there's more than that, it's too much and I have to do it.
Okay.
That's like usually didn't realize until just now, but that's usually my indicator that I use for myself. That laundry basket's full and you're doing more laundry, you have to put that stuff away.
Mine is just that I have, as long as I am folding the laundry, sorting it, and putting it away as all one motion, like that is all one activity, then I do great at getting it done. If I have to, for whatever reason, break up that time, then I'm a mess. Like when a few months ago now, I went golfing with my mom, but I had to go to a laundromat to do my laundry because the machines in my building were broken. And so I had all this laundry in my car because I did all that before I went golfing with my mom. So all my laundry was folded in my car, and then I had to bring it inside.
Oh.
And that lived in my hamper for several weeks.
Yep. Yeah.
Until I did laundry again in my building, and then I was like, okay, we're going to make the piles and then put the fresh laundry on top of it and then put it all away.
Yes.
But yeah, that was tough. So as long as I can do that all in one, which is part of my planning now when I go to do laundry, is that I plan for it to be a time where I'll be able to do that whole cycle uninterrupted.
Setting yourself up for success.
Yeah, which obviously isn't always the case, but for the most part, if I can do that a majority of the time, which is what this article noted, is that no time management strategy works 100% of the time for anybody.
Yes.
Neurodivergent or not.
Yes.
So be nice to yourself about it. Like, give yourself some grace.
Yes, which I've worked on a lot. Like, not being, even if I'm like jokingly talking to myself, I'm like, that was a dumb thing to do.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, God. I'm real bad at the negative self-talk.
Yeah. I'm real good at it is my problem.
Well, yeah.
When I say bad, I mean I'm excellent at it.
Yeah, I'm bad in the way that Michael Jackson says I'm bad.
I'm great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I try not to do as much now. Which I also think comes with age.
Yeah, I tend to, and therapy has been helping a lot too, but those days, like I'll have a day where I got out of bed and I was like, you're really fat and you're super disgusting and no clothes are ever going to fit you. And I was like all morning, like I'm having my coffee like before work and I was like, excuse the fuck out of you, girl. Like, what the fuck? Like,
sit down.
Right, like, okay, bitch.
You want to fight? Are we about to fight?
Fight Club. It's just me in a parking lot punching myself.
Swinging at the air, like violently kicking into the air. Nobody's there.
Yeah, and so, and it was all day long, but I had to like regularly say like,
yep,
you are being mean.
Yep.
And like, even if I'm not able to say like, that's wrong, you're actually very cute and pretty, being able to say like, you are being mean to yourself.
Yes.
Is a great step in the right direction, I think, and certainly taken a long time to figure out, but
yes. Yeah, or I'll do something that I know will make me feel better. Like if I'm feeling that way, I'm like, I'm going to take a shower, like do a little bit of skincare, like kind of reset my my nervous system a little bit, or like a cool shower, kind of like jolt me, slap me back into reality.
Yeah.
Chill the fuck out.
Totally. And oftentimes, if it's a weekend and I'm having a day like that, I just take a nap. I just reset. Just take a nap.
I'm bad at naps. I wake up.
I love a good nap. I will take a
very
nap
cranky.
every time. I
Not
take a
every
nap.
time, but-
Like, before I was medicated on the weekends, I'd get up, drink my coffee from like 7 or 8 until like 9:30ish, and then go back to bed for 2 hours. Immediately back to bed.
Loved it. Loved every second of it. Yeah, so if I do that, I get a sleep hangover, and then I can't wake up all day. And if I take a nap, I then wind up groggy and cranky, and I'm usually a monster.
Oh, I am a full-blown orc if I am woken up from a nap too soon.
Yes.
I am a tyrant. And
Yes.
that was one of the only times that I, like, truly scared my ex. Because I was like, okay, I'm going to take a nap. And he was like, oh, okay, I'll take a nap with you. And then, like, he got up and I guess thought that that was when I should get up. Fucking lunatic. So he, like, shook my shoulder. And all I remember, like, I was on my side facing away from him. And I was like, get off me!
What is that? Oh, that SNL skit with Chris Farley,
Yes.
where they're in the mall with the French fries. Yeah.
Yes, I was very much Chris Farley on
Yes.
a diet. Lay off me, I'm
Yeah.
starving.
That's what it was. I was like, I know that's not the exact words, but it's close.
Yeah, no, and like his face was like super taken aback, but I for sure was like the lava monster from Moana when I did that, and I stand by it. Like,
No regrets.
yeah, like I don't know who the fuck you think you are waking me up from a nap where I have nowhere to be. Like,
I don't want to be woken up at all in any
that's
fashion.
fair.
Yeah, especially not to a dog vomiting. There's nothing that wakes me up faster than that.
what about a dog pooping into your bed? That didn't wake you up.
You know, no, it didn't. That was done silently. There was no classic huh sound to wake me up from a dead sleep. And
To be fair, if a dog's butthole makes that noise, it's got to be turning inside out,
everything's
right?
over.
Yeah.
Right? The world's ending. That's the two galaxies colliding and ripping everything apart is that noise. It's also the noise that was happening during one of our last recording sessions when my dog's Tum Tum was making some really strange sounds.
It was like the thing from that Mary-Kate and Ashley movie, like Double Bubble, Toil and Trouble, was
Yes.
just his gut.
Yeah, he had the bubble guts, and
So loud.
he was real loud about it.
Oh my god. No, I was certain he was going to start leaking raw sewage onto me.
Yeah, like a poop sprinkler, but he didn't. Fortunately for all of us,
Yeah. Liquid hot
it might,
magma.
it might still be coming, but hopefully not. Maybe he's got ADHD. Maybe he pooped his pants.
Maybe he's
We
got
don't
the
know.
ADHD poops. Just hot snakes all up in his depends.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode where we spend a lot of time talking about poop. And we were actually doing some editing, and there was another situation in which we jokingly were like, we talk about poop a lot of butt jokes in this place, something like that. So we are continuing with that.
Very on brand.
This is a podcast it's a poop cast. It's a spudcast, it's a poop cast. It's a podcast.
Oh yeah, the Spudcast. That was a good one.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in, talking about poor planning today.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next Thursday.
We'll see you next week. See you next Thursday. Classic. Bye.
Goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next Thursday with a brand new episode to delight your brain juices. Until then, the best way to support us is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and like and subscribe wherever you listen. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at The Bar is Ankle High. And if you want to help us grow the podcast even more, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/thebarisAnkleHigh. Patreons get exclusive Patreon-only episodes, monthly horoscopes written by yours truly, and access to our secret members-only Facebook group, as well as added to our close friends list on Instagram. We have a lot of fun over there, and we would love for you to join us. Until next week, remember to be kind to yourself because the bar is ankle high.